spiritual paths. And because of those additions earlier, I have sought to modify my talk a little bit today because it does have a more encompassing realm, not only just one subject area, but to bring in other subject areas as well. So good morning on this 8th of February, and more or less, my talk could be called The Law of Three. It's going to bring in some thoughts from the Kybalion, and this is a very useful book for anyone's path. It consists of ideas, metaphysical ideas that are said to have come from very ancient times, and ideas which are interwoven into many religions and many mystery schools. So the collection of these ideas, there will be several takeaways, not only one, but several. And I'll be providing some music on the guitar as well. So anyway, to begin, we have a lot of things to talk about these days because of the spiritual conflicts and the spiritual harmony that can be tapped into as we're looking around. This is not a world that is easy to understand, but we do have underlying laws. They're going to help us gain and regain our footing very often. So in modifying this talk this morning, I am not going to have a beginning, and I'm not going to have an ending to this talk. I wish for this time with you to be a section excised from the tissue of the present. What does that mean? It means that in this moment we have lots of thoughts going through our minds. We have lots of thoughts, and they all connect. How do they connect? They connect because each of us has one life, one mind, and into that mind is an infinitude of other subject areas. I want to interject a few thoughts into our lives, something like a tonic that is being fed to you intravenously into your bloodstream, like the neurotransmitters that are floating through. All of our minds are generating little prompts from the nervous system that go to the different regions of the body to help us to become and to stay healthier. And these neurotransmitters are pretty much automatic, depending upon how we wish to be in this world. So I'd like for you to allow these thoughts to be like those neurotransmitters, to program ourselves for greater success, to program ourselves for open-mindedness, more and deeper, more and more. So one of the tools that you can find anywhere is this law of three, I said. And while we're starting this talk, it's going to have a lot of aspects to it. But the idea of being one with this universe involves several layers. And this layer of three is such that in great many successes we have, there are probably three components that put these together, that put together the success. One obvious example would be when two partners get together and have or care for an offspring, a third that can lead for the completeness of a family life. So those three individuals together, there is a completion of the law of three. And I want you to put this into your minds for a while. Maybe you'll have a pencil and paper later next to you, so that later you might want to mention something from your personal lives that are successful because there were three components, three items, three events, three people, three something that comprise the unity, bringing about this law of three. Another obvious example would be spirit, mind, and body. And one of the bylines from a favorite magazine of mine, where their byline is science, mysticism, and the arts. There's another trio of ideas. So maybe you would like to put some of that together. So the greatest thing for me lately has been the process of learning. And I get this process of learning, I was reminded of it by my grandchild. Emily and I have two daughters, and the younger is married. to a very fine Coast Guardsman. He's in the Caribbean right now. And their daughter, our granddaughter, has taught me to see the whole field of learning anything at all. Learning anything at all has gone through her senses. So what is that like to learn something? We look at the basic things. You know that 85% of what we learn comes through the sense of vision. About 85%. That's enormous. When I see great many children, their eyes are wide open, big eyes, because they have the most use of their vision of any living humans because of the way they are perceiving the world. They have short limbs, they can't reach very far, but their eyes are open. And when our eyes are open, I believe we can learn more and we can learn faster by having this openness of vision. So in watching Lorelei, that's her name, Lorelei Louise, in watching her, she sees, and then she starts to grasp. And then in true survivalist mode, it's got to be tasted, so she wants to put everything into her mouth to try to see what is the taste of this thing. She's saying to herself, at least subliminally, I take this in to my body because I know that I need nourishment. Therefore, this looks attractive. I will taste it. I will taste it now. And when she's not getting what she needs, she will let us know. And that's the way it was with all of us. You know, we were born, and every time we needed something, we had to scream for it. If you were too cold and your bottom was wet or something else, we screamed. I screamed. When I was hungry, I screamed. Too cold, too hot, I screamed. And now look at us, we're adults. We're grown up now, we can have anything, but we're still screaming. That's not so good. So we have to learn how to temper with the rest of our senses that first experience from sight. And that sight is going to always be the most influential, the most active, because of the way we learn. We're seeing depth. And that's one of the reasons that human beings find it so useful to have two eyes to give us depth. And the depth in the distance, the perception of distance, gives us tools for making plans. Humans make plans. How far away is that saber-toothed tiger? What's for breakfast, Dad? Oh, I don't know. If I'm lucky, we're going to have saber-toothed tiger bacon. And that's the way it started, with vision, making plans with our vision. 85% of what we're going to see and learn is going to be through the vision. So these are our tools. And when we think of this number 3, you're jotting now, I hope. So what are we going to be learning, and what do we want to pass on? What do I want my grandchild to receive? What do I want to think of as the most important things? There is a list that we can put together too. What are the things that you would like to leave beyond to the future, to our posterity? And as I look at our pictures here on the screen, two-dimensional pictures, I don't see any depth apparent, but I can see that everybody here probably can get away with not being carded at something. I think you will all pass the age minimum. And that can be a good thing, you know. We've earned some bragging rights in our lives. We've earned, through our successes, many things that we want to pass on. And you want to remember that those things we think of as completion, probably have the law of 3 working for us here. You look at your successes, your academic accomplishments, professional accomplishments, recognitions or awards you received. There are probably 3 items in a great many of those ideas. You know, if you have academic experience, I spent a lot of time in academia. It took me about 42 years or something like that to finish college because I kept having other interests. I needed to do additional things. And that's a kind of a neat thing in my eyes because I got a chance to go around the block a few times before I could put up the degrees on my wall. And I have a master's in music mostly. But the idea of getting that required a lot of focus, enormous focus for me. When I finally got it, I could say to myself, yes, it was a trio of skills I had to put together. Not the least of which was the support of my dear wife, Emily, because along the way, I needed this encouragement from her. So she was one of the big three. And one of the others, of course, was the hard work and the will to accomplish the absorption of all this knowledge. And so it is with you. We have the items 3. So you're going to jot down some of these things, not for anyone in particular, just for you. So in interjecting all these things, there's a whole here. There's a thread of intelligence that goes through our lives. And all of those accomplishments to date are going to take us forward to the next accomplishment. So what will you need for the next thing? Jot down a goal. What is the next thing you'd like to do? Maybe you have an unfinished academic achievement that you'd like to bring up. Maybe you're going to have the idea of joining a group. Maybe you're going to have the idea of acquiring another hobby. Hobbies are good for us. What do? They force us to take an inventory of our skills in order to put some new ideas together. And they are important. Hobbies are important because they complete us. They help us to bring together loose ends. Loose ends. One of my passions these days includes now watercolor. I do Zen watercolor exercises. I splash some paint around, I connect it maybe with some lines, and that is a way of bringing the psychic element into my own life. Maybe you have something like that. And to draw now, you don't need any big items. All you need would be a pencil and a piece of paper. And with those tools, the whole world can manifest onto that blank surface. That's a huge tool for our interpersonal development. So looking at some notes here. Human learning. I talked about vision. We'll also get into sound now, because within this book I mentioned, the Kybalion, within that is the idea that all is vibration. All is vibration. And as we're hearing sounds, we listen to music, we have a range within human hearing. And this range is from about 7 cycles per second, or hertz, from 7 hertz, to about 13,500 hertz, or vibrations per second. That's the range of human hearing. Now that changes with age. We know that we lose high frequencies with time and age. We are losing some pitch awareness. Sometimes we are not able to determine a pitch quite as accurately. But the sound idea is even beyond hearing. We have vibrations that are much slower than 7 cycles per second. 7 per second is about the slowest that your eardrums can sense as a musical pitch. And all these frequencies are on the piano. All of the frequencies of the orchestra, the Western orchestra, are in an 88-key piano. So on the far left, you'll have the timpani, and on the far right, you'll have the high range of the piccolo. And if you're interested, you could email me, and I'll send you a chart that shows all of the keys of the piano, their frequencies of all the notes, and the ranges of the orchestral instruments, to include the guitar and some others that you would not necessarily find in a Western orchestra. But all those pitches right in front of you, a big piano smiling at you, has all of the sounds of the Western orchestra. Why do I mention this? Because these sounds generate harmonics that may not be audible to everyone. I'll demonstrate what harmonics are. This is the 6th string of my guitar. You might even be able to see it oscillating on the screen. Now, if I stop the string halfway, and I just touch it, can anybody not hear that? Does anybody not hear that? That is twice as fast as this. I I divide the string in half, and the frequency is twice as fast now. In thirds, and then in fourths, in fifths, like a bugle. Those are a ratio, a set of ratios, mathematically predictable ratios. And each string has its harmonics. Next string, the highest string on the guitar. Hear it? Thank you. Those are all ratios, calculatable on your handy-dandy digital calculator. You can figure all these things out. And these will be true anywhere that there is air in this universe. We have faith in that because we've demonstrated it. With air that we take from planet Earth, we go out into visit the moon, and those harmonics will be in the same ratios on the moon as on Earth. Why should this be important to us? Because it contributes to the strength of our faith. When we have these physical facts of vibration as the foundation for everything we know, that gives us strength in all of the belief systems. Everybody has the concept of sound. And we have light vibrations. And with light vibrations, we have something that overlaps with sound. You know about the Doppler effect. The Doppler effect says that when a vibrating object moves away from you, the vibrations are perceived as going slower. And when something is rushing toward you, the vibrations are perceived as going faster. Faster means higher pitches. Think of that classical example of a railroad train approaching. The sound of the horn goes up, coming toward you, and then it goes down as the train leaves away from you. That's the classical example of the Doppler effect. And with that as a tool, we observe it in light as well. There's a Doppler effect in light. And this is the way physicists and astronomers are measuring distances of objects far away. We see what the spectrum of light is, and we make associations. And this is an enormous step in human evolution of thought, because with this Doppler effect and with science, we can observe and analyze things that we cannot touch. In the study of astronomy, we're observing things that cannot be touched here on Earth, but we're using our vision, and we're using sound through radio telescopes to make determinations about sizes and distances and the compositions of these astronomical objects. That's an enormous thing. So how did we start learning? With the sense of sight. The sense of sight that babies have and they use right away. They use right away. The sense of sight is helping with the visual analysis of this world. So as the babies are learning, so are we. We continue this learning. And it's useful to go back in time and to watch. You know, children are not for everyone. I'll be the first to say that. I'm richly endowed with all of my blessings, not the least of which are my two daughters with Emily. But the idea of being blessed with children nearby is an important idea too. See if you want to go to a playground sometime and take that pencil of paper and make some quick sketches of the proportions of the little ones on the playground. Make a few little drawings. You don't have to be talented. Nobody cares about your talent. It's a waste of a word anyway. Don't use that word. I do not use that word talent in my teaching because it's a loser's word sometimes. Sometimes. People say, well, I would love to have played first violin in the National Symphony Orchestra, but I didn't have the talent. Hey, no. I have a master's on the classical guitar, but it also means that I worked hard. For about 10 or 12 years, I practiced, up to about 5 hours a day, 3 to 5 hours every day. I hardly ever missed for that length of time. And that's where the talent comes in, your will and your imagination to apply yourself. So people say, oh, I'm so talented. Yeah, talent plus many hours. And that's okay too, because when you're in love with a subject area, you're going to have more involvement with it. You're going to want to do it. Just like children, they use their sight. They become aware of who the mother is, who their dad is, who are the people they love, the people who give them food and water and shelter and comfort. The Maslow hierarchy of needs, they're in there. They're in there. Love is one of them. So I'm skipping around here a lot because there are so many key phrases that we were indulging ourselves with as we drifted into this talk today that have to be brought into the totality of who we are. So I made reference to that number 3 because the number 3 is also the Trinity. Those of us who came up in the Christian faith traditions, we also have the idea of the Trinity of God and the Son, the Holy Spirit. Holy Ghost is what I came up with. But all of these ideas put together, we can allude over and over again to this number 3. And this 3, the Trinity of Christianity, that's another application of the number 3. So what I'd like to bring together here is, as a way of not concluding, but as a bridge over into other thoughts, is that we have this law of 3. We can apply it over and over again. We can also go back in time to remember some of the earliest things we learned. With me, vibration, especially musical vibration, is a big deal. When I was about 4 or 5, my parents gave me an organ device, and it was like a church window. From the front of it was a church window. The sides sloped up to a point at the top, and on all the sides were printed on this sheet metal casing, were printed stained glass windows. And on the side was a crank with a little wooden bead. Some of you had toys like that. And I could crank, and I could hear something moving inside. Now I know that we were discs with holes in them. And the discs were turning with different speeds, and it went through what sounded like organ chords. And the chords changed. And I still love that thing. I'd sit with my ear against it and I'd crank it. My parents remarked, years later, they said, we knew you would love music because you loved that little organ device. And yes, I did, because it was a change. Changes were happening inside, and I did not know exactly what they were. All I had was the sound to go by. What was it? I had to guess. I heard a humming inside. I heard the sounds changing, so I knew that the changing was happening with the movement of whatever it was inside. I was 4 or 5, something like that. The point I'm making, though, is that the vibration was the first thing that I was learning regarding music. I knew that the sound coming in was changing, and I wanted to know more about that sound. And so later, I had accordion lessons. Now, why would I bring up the accordion? It's because on the left hand, there are buttons next to each other, and the buttons next to each other are E, A, D, G. I move to another row, and I get B, E. They're next to each other. So to play this, I can go around a whole circle with buttons that are next to each other. And those sounds, those chords, can be used to play 1,000 songs almost immediately. You just need about 20 chords, and you can play any song probably that was ever written in the Western world using Western harmony. It's not a hard thing. What does it take? Your will, your imagination. Who thinks it takes talent? If you raise your hand, you're going to get a D. Okay, good. Nobody. It doesn't take the talent. It just takes a little will. Even with one finger, you can play the auto harp. One finger presses a button, the other finger brushes across the strings. And that's what it takes to play an auto harp. Harmonica, no fingers. Many instruments are available to us. So to take with us, the takeaway, if there's going to be any, will be the hierarchy of your needs and how they're all achievable with your sounds, your sights, your visions, your will, your imagination. And we're going to continue moving forward with this. Now, I alluded to the law of three earlier, and I invited you to think of some element in your lives. I'm coming to the end of the talk, and I'm going to ask you in a moment to come up with some element of your lives where a number three components of that success or that experience are significant to you. So before I do that, I would like to improvise a piece for a little guided meditation. And you're going to be asking questions. Okay. We'll gently return to the present. So thank you for enjoying this hodgepodge with me, for enjoying your own mind regarding the law of three. Perhaps you will look into the book, the Kybalion, and I'm easy to find. Email me your questions when you have a chance. And now, that concludes my portion. I'd love to hear from anyone who has comments or contribution regarding the law of three. Neil.
Yeah, I was taking a lot of notes, John, and since the Bible has been one of my more recent in my lifetime, maybe it's this third of my life, so many things came to mind. One of them is wherever two or more are gathered, there I am. And the other one that I wrote down is Micah 6:8. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly. And following on that is three words: love, compassion, understanding, or faith, hope, love. They seem to intertwine in many different phrases. Spirit, mind, body that you went through, I copied that down. Um, just that, I don't know. There's just so much the law of three. So thank you.
Oh, me too. Great. Who else? Well, that was a good number.
Right.
Frank.
Yeah, I usually go to the science end, so I thought gas, liquid, solid.
Mhm.
It's,
Okay.
if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be
Mhm.
seeing each other anyway.
Mm, mm, mhm, mhm.
It's,
Enormously valuable. Oh, science too. I am not a studied person in the sciences. If there were any, I guess it would be acoustics. But I pay attention to all the lay things of interest that come across the media, and I adore the idea of science. Also, the Dalai Lama, maybe the most well-known Buddhist in the world, also reveres science. He's a man of science as well. Great.
yeah, and another one was, they've proven that you can use certain frequencies on water, and they'll form a bubble that has a plasma in it that's creating light. So, I mean, that goes right back to the, Genesis, right?
Mhm.
First there was the word, then there was the light. And the water's above, water's below. So what are we really seeing? Are we seeing what NASA's telling us or not? I don't know.
You-
Oh,
It's not in the screen. Yeah. You want to say something? Yeah. Put his hand in the screen.
I have two cousins that between them had three children that have become very important to me over these last 10 years.
Mhm.
And they've given a great deal of meaning to my life and more of a path than I started out having before they were born.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, I know who you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So the three cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all unique, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I was trying to think about, John, something that was a goal or an accomplishment or, you know, an achievement, like you were saying, and what three components went into it. And that was rather hard. That was, what I ended up starting to think of it, it was more of a chain of events. This happened so that therefore I was in a position to take advantage of this, like that. And I did tend to be three things. But as far as components, like you were talking about, the way you learn, because I think learning is what you do to accomplish something, right? To achieve something. So, the different ways that you take it in, I started thinking about the auditory, and it's maybe that's where the three is. Um, you see, and that means you're observing. And while you're observing, you also are listening, right? And then you're processing. And then you can, whatever you came up with from putting your focus on this thing will lead to what your next step is in order to accomplish that goal that you want. Anyway, that's my initial ramblings.
hi, Leon.
Hey, Joe. Um, Everyone else is stealing all my thunder, so I thought I'd jump in before Terry takes and just leaves me bereft of anything to say. Uh, but in a broad sense, my particular formula for success has three components. You're going to hate this. Uh, but I've always thought good talent plus good coaching plus good effort gives you good results. And I maybe we'll change talent to aptitude. I don't know, but anyway, that seems to work for me, and I kind of realized as soon as I stepped on a basketball court that it's easier for some guys than the short kid. So there you go.
Excellent. By the way, nobody rambles here. The flow of everyone's thoughts are a little bit different and a little bit interesting, always interesting to me. So, great. Anybody's contributions are always welcome in whatever form you present them.
Yeah. How about the weather? Wind, rain, and ice. They go together.
You gotta put it up.
As long as we're saying, by the way, the recording is still on, so maybe the
Oh, recording is,
people.
no, I don't see the recording on.
Yeah, it's still being recorded. Terry, you unmuted first. Do you have anything you want to add before I stop the recording?
Well, the first thing that came up into my mind was the idea of how I usually learn. I like to do this. Tell me how to do it, show me how to do it. And I'm not real good at going on the computer and or into a book and just reading how something is done. I'm just not that kind of learner. I don't, I need to see somebody do it, show me how to do it, and then guide me through it as I do it. Then I can learn much quicker about something, but that's mostly in the outer physical things. I can remember back learning how to thread pipe for my father, who was a plumber and electrician and a heating air conditioning man. He could just read something and learn how to do it out of a book, and then do it. And I always thought that was just amazing. He would hand me the book, say, "Here, you want to know how to do this? Here, read this book." No, that's not my learning style. That's not the way that I approach things. So that's a little difficult for me to simply just read it and know how to do it. I need somebody to. I need to hear about it. I need to see about it, and then I need to actually experience it with a hands-on kind of thing, with somebody guiding me through that hands-on, to stop me at any moment. The other thing that occurred to me is totally different than that, and that is the way the Sumerians, the base that the Sumerians use. We use mathematically, we use a base 10, and we got 10 fingers. They used a base 6. And we still use a lot of the things that they used on that base 6. We use the idea of 12 months. That's all part of a base 6. We use 360 degrees. That's part of the base 6. It makes me wonder, to go clear back, why did they use 6 instead? It occurs to me that there's a possibility that the people that they say who came and taught them things, who they called the sky people, the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki taught them this base 6. Did the Anunnaki have 6 fingers? I wonder about that sometimes. Why did somebody choose a base 6? Why? Which is really just double 3. So there we go back, and the idea of 3 being the basic number of balance in both the physical world and the spiritual world. It's like the 3-legged stool. You can hardly make one wrong. It'll be stable as soon as you put the 3 legs on it and turn it over and set it down. There it is. It's going to stand on its own. It doesn't need 4. It won't work with 2. Absolutely not with 1. It must have a minimum of 3 for that balance to occur. Our lives are the same way.
This has been a great. I'm glad I kept the recording on. Zach said something. 3 cousins. I thought about 3 wise men. And then Terry, you brought up one of the major ways of learning is, tell me how, then show me, and then guide me through it. Demonstration,
Yeah.
Wow. So, yes, Gloria, before I stop the tape.
well, I don't know if it's worthy of being recorded. However, we have three primary colors.
Mhm.
We have three branches of government, but I could only remember judicial and executive. What's the third one?
Legislative.
Legislative. Okay. But then I did find your talk quite a bit of a hodgepodge. And I guess I'm wondering, why do we care about the law of three? Why is that important?
Well, it's because it's a common thread going through so much of our lives, the wisdom, the experiences of three, starting with a family. And of course, now there are many, many forms of family, not only man, woman, child, but also two partners who decide they're going to manifest something.
Mhm.
And also the three mother letters in Hebrew, Aleph, Shin, Mem. They are the three mother letters. The three pops up in many, many faith traditions. But if you don't think it's important or you don't know yet why it's important, the exercise will show you. That's
Mhm.
my faith statement. So I just gently feed it back to anyone who does not yet decide why three is important. I'm inviting you to determine for yourself why. Is
Mhm.
that an
Mhm.
answer?
Mhm. Yeah.
Well,
You know,
this is,
oh, I'm sorry. Somebody's
go ahead.
speaking.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. That when I write, um, I find myself, if I'm putting together like a little example of something or whatever, I come up with two things. My mind will not stop until I can think of that third thing, like I was saying, just like blank, blank, and blank. It's got to be blank, blank, and blank, and before I'm satisfied. And I think that there's something in us that looks for like that three-legged stool you're talking about, the balance, of three. That it sounds better to me when I'm reading something if there's three things that they're giving in the example. I don't know why, but it just feels better. It sounds better. And maybe it has to do with that balance. Maybe it has to do with you give two things that, you're trying to explain something, you give two things, but it doesn't clarify itself until that third thing. You've given that third example of what you're talking about, and then it helps people understand. But there's just something inside of me that I have to have that third thing. So I don't know what that is, but we're born that way. I don't know, created that way.
It's
Yeah.
like when you go to the ice cream store, you want two scoops or three.
Yeah.
Always settle for three. Well, John, you've schooled us once again, so it just proves that you can be in your 60s, 70s, and 80s and still be in preschool.
I'm glad to hear that number. I'll be 80 in December of this year. And
80
it's just
what?
a number.
80
80, just
what?
80. It'll just be 80. But the point, though, is that I'm glad to be around, and I'm watching people and I'm learning from everybody. I learn from every person. By the way, different subject. Reverend Terry brought up the idea of the Anunnaki. Uh,
Mhm.
well, there's a region or a town or a village in Ecuador where a great many of their people have 6 fingers and 6 toes. Now, I don't know why, but they are fully articulatable, useful digits, and they are hardwired in the brain. It's not some freakish thing, but they can control those 6 fingers, 6 toes. So maybe there's a connection. I'm a great fan of the Ancient Aliens program on the History Channel, and I'm able to sort through the sensationalism and the exaggerations from what is feasible, plausible. So
Mhm.
I sift through all of that, but it's great stuff. At the very least, it stimulates the imagination for what
Mhm.
can be
Mhm.
in
Yeah,
the billions of other realms.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I do. I think it's a good starting place sometimes. Terry, what I heard about counting in ancient times, I don't know if this is Sumerian or not, but they used to count with their thumb And so they use the 3 sections of each finger. You've heard that? Like they go
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that was kind of their base. I don't know why they counted that way, but I've heard that before, that it's the
You're
different
right. I remember
different
that. Yeah.
divisions of the fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you
It
guys
occurred to me
really
while we were talking that maybe I was wrong about them having 6 fingers. Maybe they had 3.
Yeah, that's right.
3 fingers. And
Mhm,
uh,
mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
but that's also part of that. The Anunnaki and all that is also a part of that ancient aliens kind of idea.
yeah.
Because they said they came down to them to teach them. They came from the sky.
Mhm.
Why
And
not?
so yeah, yes. So
You
it's all
guys are
possible.
challenging me to stop this video. I don't want to stop it, but I'm going to do it right now.
Okay.
So take a deep breath, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording.